This slasher is very Jason Voorhees, quick and to the point. Tire iron right in the mouth, and then, hey, what are you doing there? You're right on top of him. Head plant right through that, and that's such a cool shot, almost like the shot from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake. Great double play by this new guy, and using a weapon. And he initially stabbed him with like the sharp end, which is made to like take off the hubcap or something like that. But she got the dull end to go through her mouth, so that probably even was like, it takes a lot more strength to go through the other end. We got Hard Eyes, a new Valentine's Day slash. This slasher's been on tour for like the past 7 years, like major cities, Philly, Boston, and now Seattle. He only strikes on Valentine's Day, and he finds a couple at a winery with a photographer, and he machetes him right in the eye. And it pokes out the back with, the blood getting on the camera. I love that. Makes you just feel like you're there, like how messy it got. And he does the weird, like, Pennywise eye thing. Did you see that? Like, it's just like, oh, yeah, your brain is shutting off, and he's, like, checking out. And you're like, oh, man, he's fighting it, but it's not going to last forever. And then he falls to the ground. Right after this guy got engaged to his girlfriend, so this was like the shortest engagement ever. He then chases a girl through a winery, and his thing is arrows, like retractable arrows, something like what Hawkeye uses, so he could carry like a whole bunch. He uses that with a crossbow, or he rocks a machete, or sometimes these little heart knives, but mostly those two things. This dude has a utility belt with a whole bunch of these knives and everything in it. And he can throw it with, like, Olympic accuracy. And the girl runs away from him and decides to hide in, like, a wine stomping machine. So, there you go, dude. Tip number 1, don't ever hide in machinery from a slasher. The only other thing that would have made this kill extra special is if he actually packaged like a bottle of wine and kept it for himself. And like Art the Clown, he would have like drank that glass of wine with some cheese or something. Then we get to inflate this Hard Eyes killer's numbers by showing a bunch of news footage. There's an investigation sort of part because the detectives are actually working on the case. Detective Sawa, Brewster. Now we're introduced to these two. Like a workplace romance or something. And I guess they go out to dinner and they run into their ex because that's such a Sex in the City thing that happened in New York City. She takes him back to her apartment. She wasn't expecting any company, but she accidentally left her friend on the nightstand. That thing is huge. That's not discreet at all. And it has a thing to tickle the stink. So she goes over there, grabs it, and then I guess this fool was just sitting in the closet the whole time and gets hit in the face with it. And now the chase is on. Grab the belt and try to lock him in there, but of course that's not gonna hold that fool forever and everything. Like, dude, get out of the fucking apartment with it. This fool also has like a Rambo knife, Jesus, with teeth on it and everything. They run back outside, and then the cab driver gets an arrow right through the head. Like, oh man, sorry for that guy. And apparently their apartment building's right next to a fairgrounds where they have a merry-go-round, and they have a little chase scene on there where he almost machetes her right into snooze. Slugged her, she kicked the shit out of him, fell out of the thing. The police show up and immediately arrest Mason Gooding because he's black. Just kidding. The Hard Eyes killer framed him up a little bit. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be like a whodunit already. I assume this fool was like supernatural. Hobbs and Shaw show up and like, hey man, he was wearing the max. He has a crossbow on him. We got our guy. Mason better get a good lawyer. I mean, he has a good job and everything, dude. People do life sentences with way less evidence. While the interrogation is happening, the lights start messing up, and this fool, brazen and everything like a Terminator, shows up. Halloween, Michael Myers in part 4. Breaks into a police department, impales a police officer with an American flag, and then slashes Sawa right in the nuts and then across the chest. Detective Shaw couldn't do anything either, dude. He just got bullied and beat up in the hallway. So he goes into the interrogation room. The girl gets a gun and is able to shoot at him, but she's like Pulp Fiction, man. She shot everywhere but this dude. She misses from like 8 feet away. God must have stopped those bullets. Now another chase scene ensues and they end up in a drive-in. And I've been to Seattle a couple of times. It's always rainy. I don't think they have drive-ins there. And for such an old movie, that drive-in theater is packed. This guy was just like, hey, dude, nice costume. Ooh! So, yeah, I don't know if he was a couple. They're just like, let's add stabbing. Why not? This slasher is very Jason Voorhees. Quick and to the point. Tire iron right in the mouth. And then, hey, what are you doing there? You're right on top of him. Head plant right through that. And that's such a cool shot. Almost like the shot from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake. They just hid inside this like hippie couple's car and they decided to bone anyway. Heart Eyes Killer decided to go and get him. And a couple of people just for being around too. It's his day, let him have fun. They ran away, but then they decided to turn back and fight this dude. They stab him in the chest with the machete, take off his mask. They're like, do you know this Vato? Like, I don't know this dude. And then they both give their police reports. They both head back home, but then she gets a call saying, hey, I got Mason Jr. Come to this creepy church and find out the truth. And she goes, and oh my God, it's Olivia Holt, Detective Shaw. And you're like, oh man, it's just like Scream 6. The police are in on it. She gets metal strawed in the mouth and then tackled against like a sword and a statue that clean cut her head off. Just to lift her that high up in the air and throw her, that's like a lot of adrenaline. And that's one of the best beheadings with the blood spurt after the fact. Not really a whodunit because the other guy only had one scene. Like, hey, I'm the IT guy. Like, who? So it didn't even matter. Very original Friday the 13th. Just sort of like, hey, I'm the killer. Like, who? Jason's mom? You weren't in the rest of the movie, really, but at least this guy had one scene. Got an arrow in the eye, a bunch of wax in his face, and then he tried to come at them at the very end, and Mason shot him in the face with an arrow. A year later, they're in love. They go back to the drive-in. She proposes to him untraditionally, and they end up happily ever after. Then have cute mixed baby kids.